Hi, everybody. All right. Welcome to Recovery Roundtable. Tonight is a very special night. We have a special guest. And hi, Gabby. We have a special guest tonight, Kim Elkins, and she will be joining us to share her story. And her story is Mother, Grandma, and Wife, my story of surviving and healing. And so I've known Kim for some time, and she's a very special person, special in our lives. I know she's special in a lot of people's lives. Hi, Image. And, you know, she has been through a lot in her life. And I was so happy when she reached out and let me know that she wanted to share her story, because I feel like it's very powerful. There's a lot that she'll be sharing tonight. So I really appreciate everybody that is joining, and I'm just waiting for her to hop on and get ready, and then we will start. So I think I got this down now on how to get it up and running. I just need to wait for her to hop on. And there she is. I will send her the request. And then we shall get started. So I had a little background music going on, and so I hope you don't mind. Hi, Kim.
Hi, good evening.
Right. Good evening. I'm so glad that I have you on live. Let's see. We have a couple other people that hopped on. Hi, Darina. Hi, Kim. Rogers. Hi, Selina. And who else hopped on? Yep. And so let's see here real quick. Hi, Jaden. Thanks for joining. So this is Kim Elkins, and I also want to share that at the end of this segment, or this episode, I guess in a way of a Wopila, thank you for listening to Kim's story this evening and what she has to share. She would like to give away a gift, and so I can let Kim kind of take it from there. But I will be taking names of everybody that has hopped on, just to kind of help me keep track of everybody. If everybody could just at least do like a thumbs up or something, so that way it'll help me track everybody that has hopped on the video and watched. Hi, Bill. Hi, Kyle. Hey, Michael. We have some people joining tonight. Well, you look good, Kim. I'm glad to see you, as usual. So I'll let you introduce yourself. And then also, just for all of our viewers, if you have any questions throughout the segment, then please post it in the comments and I will pin it, and then we will come back to your questions towards the end of our conversation. So, all right, Kim, let's take it away.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. Like Brooklyn said, I'm Kim Dickens. I always forget. We have to back up here. My married name is Kim Elkins. I have been married. I was married for 29 years at Dickens, and I just recently remarried. And it's really hard to get used to my married name. Like Brooklyn said, I am a grandma, and I am a mom and a wife, and I want to share my story of healing and grief. But before I start, I'm going to read a quote by Steve Marabelli. And the quote is, "My past has not defined me. destroyed me, deterred me, or defeated me. It has only strengthened me. And so at the end of the of the of the live that we're doing, that'll kind of go with why I read it. So to get started, um, like I said, my name is Kimberly Elkins. I am Lakota. Lakota and Arikara. My Indian name is Iron Road Woman. I'm an enrolled member of the 3 affiliated tribes. I just love saying this. I'm a full-blooded Indian. I just love it on my enrollment paper. When I see 4 fourths, I'm so proud of that. I make my home in White Shield on the Fort Berthold Reservation. My parents are Gilbert Perkins Sr. and my mother is Hope Plenty Chief. I have 5 children: Jonah, LaBelle, Jonah, Penny, Sky, Eagle, Deer, and White. And then I have 2 children who I adopted, Hunkawe, and they are Larson Fat is my son, and Missy Brady is my daughter. And after my story, you'll know how they became my Hunkawe son and daughter. I was sitting down trying to figure it all out, how many grandkids I have, and I have 23 grandchildren and I have 3 great grandchildren. And they are my world, they're my universe, they're the reason that I live. So that's what keeps me going. So to start my story, I'm employed with the 3 affiliated tribes. I'm the director of the infant toddler program. I've been there for 4 years, but previous to that, I'm a teacher. I taught 3rd grade for 13 years. I taught Head Start, middle school, and I just wanted something different. So I got out of the classroom, but still stayed in education. And I work for the infant and toddler program now, and I love my job. It's my retirement job, I always say. So let's go on. I'm going to go on. I went and wrote down a lot of my stuff. So starting, let me back up a little bit here. My daughter, I have a daughter, Penny, and she was in treatment in Amity, and she worked with Brooklyn a lot. And I'm so thankful for all that you've done for her when she was there, Brooklyn. But when we were there, I would go down and visit her, and in her recovery and in her sobriety, I could see the growth in her because she was an addict. She was addicted, addict, alcoholic, meth, alcohol, anything. But when she went to Amity, I say she found herself, because then I knew she was sincere about recovery and wanted a better life for herself and her kids. So she would always tell me, Mom, you have to tell your story. And I used to think, what does she mean? But so when she was in Amity, I talked a little in their women's group. And now I kind of understand what she meant. I'm a product of an alcoholic family. My father and mother were alcoholics. My mother was an alcoholic, and she also had rheumatoid arthritis, so she was addicted to her prescription pain pills. We, like, when my mother and my dad, I always remember I was about 8 or 9, they separated, and that was because of their drinking and partying. And I just remember many times where due to their drinking, he would beat her up, and oh my gosh, I remember running out in the fields with her to get away from him, from beating her up. And there are times when I would remember her, she'd be at her mirror putting her makeup on and putting her perfume on. And I would just think in my head, I know where this is going. I would just think, God, don't go out, you know, because I know how it was going to end. She was going to get beat up. There's going to be parties at the house, and it wasn't good. But so then they divorced, and we ended up going with our mom. And my dad moved back to White Shield. And in the time that they were drinking, we were left home a lot. I had 5 siblings, and my oldest sister, Ardeen, who is my only sister, she kind of was our caretaker and took care of us, because I can remember them being gone for like 3 days. We would have nothing to eat. Oh my gosh, I remember being so hungry and having those pains and my hunger pains in my stomach. And I would always, sometimes the only thing to eat was like a ketchup sandwich on a piece of bread, or I do sugar sandwiches, or I would do, there used to be this one sandwich spread that we used to call long time ago. It was a mayo something, and it had little things in it. Oh my gosh, I really liked that. That was my favorite. But that's just an idea of, because we didn't have groceries. I remember being really sick one time, and I had a fever. I was throwing up, and again, we were home alone, and my parents were out drinking. It just wasn't a good situation. But I remember in that time, as I was going on, that I always thought to myself, if I ever have kids, they're never going to grow up the way I grew up. So back to, they separated, got divorced, separated. I went with my mom, and she continued to do her drinking. And so my brother and I got taken away from her. And this was before the Indian Child Welfare Act. So we were placed in white people's homes. And we were taken away because I remember exactly the day someone knocked on the door. I opened the door, and there was this big, tall, white cop standing there. And he said, "Is your mom home?" And I said, "No." And there was a lady beside him, a white lady. And he said, "Well, is somebody with you?" And there was a lady there, one of my mom's friends, who was watching us. And she said, "No, she's not here." And he said, "Well, we've been getting reports about their mom drinking and leaving them." And so they took us right out of the home and took us to a white home. And talk about a cultural shock. I was just not knowing. I thought, well, I'm not going to go to bed tonight. I'm going to just stay awake all night, because I know we're going to in the morning. Well, that never happened. Well, when we lived in this home, this lady was so abusive. She had 2 other Indian kids in the house too. So there were 4 of us there. Oh my gosh, we went through so much physical abuse from her. I don't know where she got I don't know how she thought up her ways of abuse. She would make us eat salt and pepper sandwiches. She would make us hold suitcases with clothes in them, and they were those heavy Samsonite suitcases, and we'd have to hold them in one spot for hours. And when we would have the pepper and salt sandwiches, they would make you so thirsty that I drank out of the toilet bowl, because she wouldn't let you drink water, because I don't know what her form of discipline or what the heck she was doing. She would knock us down the stairs, hit us in the stomach. She would poke us in the eyes and break those blood vessels in our eyes, and then would put sugar in your eyes, because that helped take the red eyes. But we were never told to tell. We were told to never tell anybody, because she would always say they would put us in a worse foster home. Well, one time she had hit me and knocked me down the stairs, and I had a bloody nose. And we got to go home to my dad's one weekend out of the month. And it just so happened that weekend he came and got us. And my nose was just hurting and swollen. And he picked us up. So he took me to the emergency room, and here she had stuffed so much Kleenex up my nose that it started blocking up, and the doctor had to pull all of that out. And he asked me what had happened. So I told them what she was doing to us. Well, you think they would have took you right out of there, but we had to go back there. And of course, they notified them of this when we were still in the home. And so then they took us out of there. We got put in 2 more foster homes. They weren't like that, though. They were not that bad. But there was no abuse. But in the meantime, my dad, I don't know how he did it, but I was so happy. He got us back and got custody of us. So we went and lived with my dad at my grandma's house, at his mom's house. We had we did have electricity, but we didn't have running water. The house we lived in had no electricity, no running water. So we would run over to our grandma's to like eat and stuff because she would feed us. But my dad continued to do his drinking and stuff. I dropped out of school when I was, I dropped out when I was a junior. I was 17. And I had my oldest daughter, LaBelle, when I was 18. And then a year later, I had Jonah. So now I had 2 babies by the time I was 20, and I had no job. I lived with my dad. He took care of us. And then I met my husband, Max. We got married, and we had 3 children. We were married, when he passed away, we were married for 29 years. But in that time, he's the one who influenced me to go back to get my GED. I did that. I got my associates, I got my bachelor's, and then I got my master's. So he was the rock at that time for me, because he helped me to, I used to tell him, gee, if it wasn't for you, I didn't know which way I was going to go on my road, if I was going to continue, because I would drink and party and go out, and then he came into my life, and it's like my life just completely was for the better, because I was really scared because of how I was brought up. Was I going to continue on that road, but I'm glad when he came into my life, then he showed me what it was to have a family, to have structure, raise a family, be married, go back to school. So I had all of that. I think at that time, we did everything for the kids. We went to their games. We supported them in everything that they did. And in our house, after I met him, and then I didn't go out anymore. I quit drinking. And then along with that, I noticed I didn't have my friends anymore, because my friends would say, oh, come on, you're just trying to act too good. And I always remember my friends saying that to me. And it's not, I don't want to do that no more. I have my kids. I'm not about that life anymore. So then when you stop doing that, then you don't have them friends anymore. So it was just him and I, which it should be when you're married, your spouse, it should only be your spouse and you, because that's your best friend. So I quit drinking then. So and then I didn't smoke. So whatever I role modeled in our house, my kids had structure, they had rules, bedtime, curfew. There was no drinking, no parties, no smoking, and exactly what I said my kids weren't going to go through what I lived through. I did that for them. I modeled that for them. So when my kids, the older ones, when they walked out that door, when they turned 18, they knew right from wrong. It was modeled in the house. There was no drinking, there was no drugs, there was no smoking cigarettes, weed. And I'm so happy today, as old as Sky Eagle Deer is, he must be almost 40. He has never seen me drunk. He has never seen me smoke a cigarette. None of my grandkids have seen that. And that's what I like, that they can, that I, even though they've been what they have been through in their lives, I'm glad that I'm the grandma that they didn't be doing that. So so then now we have our family, we're raising our kids. And like I said, Jonah's oldest, or LaBelle was the oldest. So she went out of the house, got married. Jonah was next. He went out of the house, got married. And Jonah has 5 boys. And then one day it was, I think it was in 2009. He called me one day and he said, "Mom, my stomach really hurts." But back up before that, I kind of noticed he was getting skinny, and I thought, oh, this guy must be working out. And I thought, well, you know how it is, parents are the last to know. So, well, anyway, he said, "Mom, my stomach really hurts." And I said, "Well, you better go to the hospital, to the emergency room." So anyway, he calls me, and his wife calls me, and she said, "I'm taking Jonah to the hospital." She said, "Can you meet us in Makoti?" And I said, "Yes." So I went up and I put down the seat so he could lay down. And I was thinking, gee, what is wrong with him? And he said, "Mom, my stomach really hurts. You think I have ulcers or something?" So anyway, we got to the ER. They did all the tests. He had cirrhosis. And then I felt so bad because I didn't even know he was drinking. I was just like, wait a minute, what is going on? And then, like they say, hindsight is 2020. While his siblings would say, "Well, Mom, why do you think he always carried a Gatorade bottle and never let you drink out of it?" And now that I seen it, I recall him always having a Gatorade bottle. I do recall that. Well, he got sick. It was December, and he passed away on February 18th. He was 32 years old, and he left 5 boys. And he died of cirrhosis. It took him 82 days from the time he got sick to when he passed away. Was 82 days. That's how fast the cirrhosis took him. And he was in the hospital for a month, and I never left his side. I stayed there with him. Oh man, it was tough to see you watch your child go through the pain, the bleeding, the bloating stomach, the not being able to breathe. It was it was hard, but I had to do it. That's my baby. So I we all I stayed with him to the end. I was by his side. I held him. Um, I held him like in my thinking when he was going, and I knew he was going because the nurse kept coming in and out. And so I made sure everybody was there, all his siblings and his kids and his wife. And we all stood around the bed and we held his hand. And I got up by him and I put my arms around him and I held him. And I told him, it's okay to go. We're going to be okay. We'll take care of the boys and we're going to be fine. And he did. It was, he left us on February 18th. It was like 7 in the evening. So then now the boys have no dad. And then, how it goes. Then his wife turned to other stuff. She turned to drugs. And so I petitioned the court and I got custody of the boys and I raised them for 6 years until mom decided to get herself into treatment and turn her life around and all the stipulations, and she met all of them. So she got the boys back. But in the time that so Max and I are raising the boys. On July 9th in 2012, 3 years later, when I lost Jonah, then I lost my husband, Max. And I lost him. He had NASH. He was on a medication that he was taking for years, and it was affecting his liver. And how Indian men, they do not like to go to the clinic or I'll be all right, and he wasn't getting his blood checked like he should have. And he had NASH. He had stage 4 cirrhosis. So that was 3 years after I lost Jonah. And then we were raising the 4 boys together. So now here I am. I lost my son, I lost my husband, and I have 4 boys. And I'm like, I thought I was going to go crazy. I thought I was falling apart. But I dealt with boys like crying at night. We'd all be sleeping. They'd all come in grandma's bed and lay down with me, and they missed their mom. They missed their dad. So we would smudge. The boys, I taught the boys, they all learned how to smudge, and we would pray. Because I don't know if you ever heard the saying of, you pray hardest when it's hardest to pray. And there was a lot of times that praying is all we could do. I mean, that's what got us through, like many nights, like I said, come and lay with me and cry, and then we'd smudge and we'd talk about his dad, and just to get him through that and I think, oh, good, now we got through that one, and they do really good for a while, and then it would come back. It was just a cycle of trying to keep them up, and I'm trying to keep myself up because, I lost Max and I lost Jonah. So in the meantime, their mom was working on helping herself get better, and then the day came when she did. She finally got the boys back, and oh my gosh, I remember the day they left me. I just cried. My house, the silence was so loud. Oh my gosh, I was just like, what do I do? You know, now I lost Jonah, I lost Max, I don't have the boys anymore, and it's like, wow. So then they got back with their mom, and then my oldest daughter, Lael, on May 16th, 2013, we lost her in a car wreck. And that was 10 months after I lost Max. So now I'm really like, oh my goodness. It's like after each loss, I would think I was scared that I was gonna go crazy. I was scared I was losing it. And again, I thought, well, I have to I do what I would look at pictures. I would look at all of our pictures. I would think of all of our memories. I would talk to people. I would cry. And little did I know that in all of this was my grieving. That was my way that I picked up on how to grieve. But I didn't know that's what it was at the time. So then I lost LaBelle. So I've lost Jonah, I've lost the Max, and I've lost LaBelle now. And I was by myself, living at my house by myself. Big 4-bedroom house with a basement, and so then I have older grandkids, and they would never want me to be alone. They would say, Grandma, I'll come stay with you. And then we would they would come over, we'd watch movies, make popcorn, just talk. Okay, Grandma, can I stay overnight? And I knew what they were doing. They didn't want me to be alone. So we would, I'd say, sure. So they'd lay on the couch but there was always a grandkid in the house that would always come and stay with me because I knew they didn't want me to be alone. So then, in the time that I've lost Jonah, Max, and LaBelle, you know, everybody kind of forgets about, you know, I'm thinking about myself. I lost my babies, and then I didn't think about how my other children were thinking because they lost their sibling, they lost their brother and their sister and their dad. So Penny and Sky Eagle Deer chose to mourn or grieve turning to drugs and alcohol. And like I said, Penny was addicted. So oh my gosh, she would stay away from home. There were many times they wouldn't want to come around me because they didn't want me to see that they were drinking and what they were doing. So I would I always told them that you need to get help. And if that help means sending you to treatment, then that's what I'm going to do because I love you and I care for you. And I don't want to lose another child. So Penny got, well, one weekend, it was on a Friday, she called me, which was unusual because she usually never came around. But in that time, I always had her kids because she wasn't fit to have them and didn't have a place to live. So she had called me on a Friday, and gee, she didn't sound like herself. She kind of sounded like talking kind of goofy. And I said, are you okay? She said, Mom, I think I'm hallucinating. And I said, well, you better go to the hospital. Well, oh my goodness, long story short, she had taken a bad drug. I don't know where she got it, what it was, who gave it to her, but she was running around in the village, knocking on people's doors, no shoes on, took off from the cops. They finally caught her, which she said was her saving grace, because if they didn't catch her, I don't know what would have happened, but they got her to jail. And she was like detox. She was so far gone. Oh my gosh. She was like not in her right mind. She was just, and she said, Mom, I was going to go crazy after she got through it and realized what had happened to her. She said, Mom, I was losing my mind. I was going to go crazy. So that scared her enough to want to go to Amity, because right after she got out of jail, she was on that plane to Amity. And I think of what she had gone through with the bad drug that she took, scared her straight, maybe, because when she got down to Amity, she really put the work into turning her life around, being sober, helping out in Amity. And then she wanted me to come and visit her. So I went down there and I took Owen and Anira. She wanted to visit them. But yet at the same time, she had asked me if they could stay with her. Well, all that I have been through with Penny and knowing her addiction and her ways, it was hard for me to let her take them, even though those are her own kids. Knowing what she went through, it was hard. So I said, okay, I'll get down there. Let me see what it's about. I'm not going to say I'm going to leave them. And I'm not saying I'll leave them either. I just want to check it out. Let me see how it is. So then I went down. Oh, it was such a nice visit. It was good to see the schedule, all the process of what they do down there. So the day came when I was going to leave, and I had to make the decision if I was going to leave Owen and Anira. And I knew in the back of my mind, I didn't want to. I was wrestling with my heart and with my mind. So I said, all right, I let them stay, because she was doing really good. Had she not been where she was at, I would not have had left them. So they stayed with her down there. And they were, oh my gosh, doing really good. All of them doing good. And then she would come back and visit. We would go down and visit. And she was getting ready to go home. Looking forward to December 2019, she was going to come home. She was ready to come back. She said, I'm getting lonesome, Mom. She said, I want to really want to come home. But what made me realize that she was in recovery and she was sincere, was because she said, I have this commitment up to December. And when I meet that commitment, then I'm going to come home. But by then I was so darn lonesome for them. I was to the point where just come home. But she said, no, Mom, I need to do this. And I said, all right. So then it was in September, the end of September, I had gone to a conference in Texas. And Penny had called me and she said, Mom, I think I'm getting sick. And I said, what do you mean? She said, I think I'm getting the flu. She said, I got this big rash all over my body. And she was coughing and coughing. And I said, well, you better go in. So she went in. I checked on her. She said they told her she had the flu. She was on her medicine, but she was not getting any better. And I said, you need to go back. And she said, well, I'm going to do the plan. They gave me antibiotics. I'm going to finish them up, and then I'm going to go in. So then I get back to North Dakota, calls that on that Sunday, and she says, Mom, they're going to put me on a ventilator. And then I thought, what the hell is going on? And I said, Penny, scaring me. And she said, worried too, Mom. So then they were going to put her on Monday, the next day. And I was thinking, I said, all right, don't do anything until I'm going to try and get down there. And I couldn't get any darn flights out. And that was Sunday. So I called my daughter, White Elkins, and I told her, I said, they're going to put her on a ventilator. And then I thought, God, I can't get any flights out. So I needed new tires. So Roland, my husband, said he went and took the car to the shop, put all the tires on, because I said, I'm going. I'm just going to drive down to Arizona. And he said, by yourself? I said, yes. And I thought, as parents, you would do anything to be by your child when they need you, when you know it's serious, and when you know it's a matter of life or death. So then White Elk Woman calls me and she said, Mom, we need to go. And I thought, oh, thank God. So I drove to White Show, her and I, her husband Lorenzo, and Skade, we got in his truck and we drove all night. We drove all the way. But in the meantime, I was calling the hospital, and then they told me they couldn't wait anymore. They needed to put her on the ventilator. So I got to talk to her before she got put on, and I told her, I'm on my way. I love you. You're going to be okay. She said, Mom, I don't know. I'm just going home now. She said, I'm just going to take my treatment back home. I want to come home now. And I said, okay, but we're on our way. So they put her on the ventilator. And I think we got to Albuquerque like 7 a.m. And I called the hospital, and no, they called me, and I knew it wasn't good. She passed away. The nurse called me and she told me it's coming to her time. And I said, well, can you take the phone and put it by her? She said, yeah. So she takes the phone in her room, puts it by the bed by her ear so she could hear me. And I talked to her. I told her that I loved her, that, you don't have to worry about the kids. We're going to take care of them, that she could go, that it's okay. So she passed away, and on October 7th, she passed away from COVID. And way before COVID, this was October, November, December is when COVID started coming out. So it was COVID. So we got, and what was really good is, as a parent, as a mother, losing, now I lost Jonah, I lost LaBelle, and I lost Penny. And as for me, my greatest fear was that my kids not be alone when they left. So like with Jonah, I was there for him. I was there with Max. I wasn't there for LaBelle because the accident was so fast. And but she was with Renee, her coworker. So I felt good. She wasn't by herself. And the other thing that I felt good about was that with each of my 3 kids that I lost, I was able to talk to them and tell them that I love them. So that made me feel good. And I know that helped them. So, and the other thing was, oh, she had so many friends at Amity. The nurses, when we finally got there, they were just amazed at how packed the waiting room was for her. They sat up with her all night. They were there with her all the 2 days before. And I'm so thankful to Jason Myers for being there for her, because they went down together and they did everything together. And he was there to the end with her. He brought her back to North Dakota, flew back with her. He's really a good special person in our family, in our lives. Then I lost Anna, I lost Max, I lost LaBelle, and I lost Penny. And then October 19th, 2020, I lost my sister Ardeen to COVID. She was my only sister. So in 11 years, I lost significant loved ones in my life. So then you go back and you think, in that time, I lost my faith. I lost, it, I think it was with LaBelle. I, it was so hard to be depression, and I didn't go to ceremonies anymore. I, I used to think, what's the use of praying? And at that time, Ardeen was still here, and she always would go to ceremonies and sweat, and she would you want to go to there's ceremony, and go to ceremony. And I said, I'm going to be honest, I don't feel like it. And she said, that's understandable. So in all of this loss, and I was thinking, I need to do something, and I know otherwise something was going to happen to me. And I thought, I have white elk woman, I have sky eagle deer, and I have all the grandkids. I need to straighten myself up. I need to get myself in order. So I was thinking, what am I going to do? So I went and I bought a book, and it's called On Grieving, and it's with Kubler-Ross. Oh my gosh, this is such an inspiring book. And get out my tags. I read it and I reread it. And after, this is where I found myself. I found that how I was feeling, what I was going through, I wasn't crazy. And grief can make you feel like that sometimes. Grief can make you feel like you're going crazy, but you're not. And in going through the book, it talks about there's no correct way, or there's no correct way or time to grieve. You can't say, well, I'm gonna grieve at 11 o'clock on Wednesday. Grief hits you any damn time, morning, day, or night. You can be okay, and all of a sudden you could be happy, you could be doing this, doing that, and it'll be a sound, it'll be a smell, it'll be a commercial,
Yeah.
it'll be anything that'll just take you back to, that reminds me of Jonah, that reminds me of LaBelle, that reminds me of Penny. And so there's no correct time or way to grieve. Grieving is a part of us. It's a part of our human, our flight, what we have to do. Now this is my opinion. Other people might think different, but you have to grieve. You have to grieve. And if you don't do that, look where I was at. I look back and there were times when my shoulders just felt like there were weights on them. And I knew that was depression.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was depressed and how I was feeling. And I thought I have to do something or something's going to happen to me. So here's how I got through it. At first, I would think of all the good memories. Even the bad memories, I would think of them. I would look at pictures. I slowly, after doing that, I got back to my faith. I got back to my praying. I got back to ceremony. I got back to Sundance. I talked to family, friends, and also talking to other people who have gone through the same thing I've gone through, that I can identify with. That helps you healing also, and talking about it helps you to heal. And I pray, and I think of the day will come where I'm going to be able to talk about them and not cry. And I think about when I cry, or when you cry, you talk about your loved ones, the crying is because you love so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're grieving, everybody is different. Everybody's grief is different. From mine is different from white Elkins. Hers is different from sky eagle deers. But we all share that same loss. So we're not the same in all your grieving. Everybody is so different. And I've learned that when I grieve, I try to identify, why did I feel like that? Okay, like Jonah loved Creedence Clearwater. He used to take all my darn DVD or CD. They would always be missing, and he would always have them in his car. And he liked Midnight Special. So for the longest time, when I would listen to Midnight Special, I would cry, because that was his favorite. So then I started trying to identify, why am I crying? Why am I missing him? Like springtime is really hard for me, for Jonah, because he loved the springtime. He loved that time kind of weather. He would take his boys out and go run and take them to the park. But with me, I kind of would think, am I supposed to feel different because I've lost Jonah, I lost LaBelle, I lost Penny, and I lost Max? Who am I grieving for now? For me, milestones are really hard for me. Like oh my gosh, like Owen, his first prom. Oh my gosh. Like I said, grief hits you anytime. And I'm sitting there thinking how nice he looks. And then it just hit me. I wish his mom was here, and I know she's there in spirit, but it's the physical part of her not being there physically, seeing him how we're seeing him. Just really hard to go through all those milestones without them. And then when you read like Facebook posts, or he'll message me and he'll say, I'm having a bad day, Grandma, I really miss her. You know, and you try to do your best to pick the right words to help him feel better. And then that makes me feel bad too. But I'm just glad that I was able to get the grieving book and read it and know that I'm fine. I'm whatever way you pick to grieve, to help you through that grief, do it, use it. If it works for you, then do it. There's no right or wrong way to grieve other than don't turn to drugs and alcohol, because that's jail, prison, death. That's something you don't want to turn to. When you don't know happiness until you've experienced sadness, and those two don't live without each other. They're there. I mean, you know, you're never going to be the same when you're grieving. I mean, you're not that person anymore. You're always going to have that grief with you, but it's important to, man, I I had so much grief, being depressed, that there was something that happened, and oh, it felt so good to laugh and really laugh, and then I thought, wow, that felt really good. You know, that really felt good to laugh, to feel happy. And that's what I strive for, times like that, that make you happy, that make you feel happy. But just know that you're not alone in your grieving and your grief. There's always people out there who are going through what you're going through, just like with recovery. You know, you have people who you can talk to, who you can turn to, who can help you through what you're going through. And that's what we do with grieving. So in my picture that I had asked Brooklyn to that I sent her, that's my family. That's my I call it our nuclear family, because everybody, you know, mother, father, sister, brother, we had all of that. You know, we lived that life. And like I said, when there were seven of us, and now there's three, which is myself, White Outcomen, and Sky Eagle Deer. And we I want to back up and talk with about Penny, Owen, and Anira. When Penny passed away, in our culture, your aunties are your moms. And when she passed away, Penny said, or White Outcomen said, she took Penny, Owen, and Anira, and she's raising them now as her own. They're just like her own kids. We all work together. We have them in, they're in therapy. We take turns taking them to therapy. We go to all their games. We support them in everything they do. She reminds me when I was raising all my kids, because now here she is raising her two kids, and then Owen and Anira, and three dogs. So and they help. That's so part of so the part of grieving is the animals who to they help you a lot in your grieving. So I kind of see on the outside, I see her in, I see me and her when we were raising our kids, and that's how she is doing now. So um also for me, I like I said, Max and I were married for 29 years, and when he passed away, I I gave myself a year before there were I seen an interest in somebody else, and that I met my husband Matt, Roland. We've been married, well, we've been married since April 1st of this year. Um, but he, you can, some people make the choice to not go on and remarry, and some do, but that's your choice, that's your opinion. But I I found somebody that can make me happy, that understands what I'm going through, because he lost his mom, he lost his sister, he lost his dad. So we all understand, we share that same grief and knowing what it's going, how, what to go through, what we're both going through. And so I remarried. We were together for like 3 years, 4 years, and I remarried. We got married on April 1st in Vegas. And we just got a new modular home in White Shield. So we're living back in White Shield, which is where I wanted to eventually get back home, because I was living in Minot for the last 3 years. And it feels good to be home with all the relatives. But so in this time, when I talked about Hunka, daughter and son, when Jonah was alive, or after, well, I think Jonah and Larson knew each other. But my nieces would always tell me, Grandma, geez, there's this guy, he really looks like Jonah. And so we were at United Tribes powwow, and they pointed him out to me, and I thought, oh my God, I just wanted to go up to him and hug him. But I would think, God, that would be so weird, because you don't even know me, but that's all part of grieving, because like in grief, like you could be in Mina and you look at this person and, my God, she looks like Penny so bad, I just want to go hug her. But then, you think you're weird. But so then I Carson, and I told Ardeen, I said, I want to adopt him. So then we were at a basketball game at United Tribes, and my niece went over and got him, and his mom and dad came over. And I said, I told him that what I wanted, that I had lost my son, and that Larson reminds me of him and looks like him. So they said, yeah. So then during our Sundance, we adopted him, and now that's how Larson is my son now. And then come to find out, Larson's related to us anyway, because his mom, his mom's dad, it was Marvin, and Marvin's dad was Ike Price, and Ike Price is my grandma's brother. So we're related. And then when I lost Penny, we lived in Devil's Lake. My husband worked at the social services up there. And Penny became friends with Missy Merrick. That was way back in, I think they were in elementary, like 5th or 6th grade. They became friends and were friends ever since. So when I left LaBelle, I asked Missy if I could adopt her, and she said yeah. So I adopted her at Sundance also. So that's how they became my daughter and my son. Um, it just helps me to know that how close they were with Jonah and LaBelle, that I kind of still have them with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm glad that they accept it. But I don't know, lately I've kind of been sometimes the year is hard for me as far as remembering my kids. And I know sometimes and I feel it too. I feel like I'm kind of not really good at communicating or keeping in touch. And I know that's just me because I'm feeling lonesome, missing them. So that's what I have to work on my part, to be more in touch with Larson and Missy. They message me, tell me they love me, they think about me, and it just hurts some. But each day, like I said, grief has no time, no correct way to grieve, and you just deal with it when it hits. So when now, as I'm wrapping it up and I'm thinking about what Penny had told me about my story, I I realize a lot, that just sitting here talking in this time, that it's kind of scary and overwhelming that one person goes through a lot like that. And I'm just grateful for my faith and prayer that I'm able to be where I am today. I always think that, and I know for sure that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for prayer and my faith and my kids, my grandkids. Roland, just to, that's my that's my circle. That's what gets me through. So I think I talked about everything that I wanted to. Just hope that I can some way, somehow help somebody to just know when you're grieving that you're not going crazy, that it's all part of grief, how you're feeling, and to find some way, something to help you get through that grief. Talk to somebody, find a support group, find Brooklyn, come on her her videos.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really thankful for everything that you shared this evening, because I know that it's um it's a lot. And like, as you're talking about Penny, I'm like, oh, trying to hold myself together, because uh I really, I don't know, I just thought have a special place in my heart for her. um for one, being my friend, and then for one, working with her in another capacity, and then being my son's
Yeah,
aunt, you know,
yeah,
and then finding out that her and I are related in a way, and I was like, oh, that's cool, way later.
yeah,
But and so just, she was a really special person. LaBelle and Jonah were older than me, but I did know who they were. And um, I just, like, it's true, like, that's I don't know, that for me as a parent, like that's one of my fears as well, as and I would never wish that on anybody, no matter what. And the parents that go through this and they seem so strong, and you're one of the parents that I've seen that have really, in your private time, that's when you're going through your grieving, but on the outside, you're very strong. And I see so many parents like that, and I don't know how parents do it, because I feel like exactly like what you said, like I would fall apart or I would go crazy, like, and I just have to, appreciate all of your strength and all of your everything that you've been through, and your process of grieving, and sharing your story, because I'm sure that there's a lot of other parents out there that are feeling the same thing. And it might be just as fresh, if not even more fresh, in their experience, that, what you're sharing. And so, um, yeah, I just really appreciate it. And I'm glad that, the way you kind of took it back and then you like brought it to present, like just sharing it all and just laying it out. And I don't know, I appreciate it a lot. I can't say that enough. So, but I'm wondering if, I'm just going to take a look here, and promise I was listening, but I was just writing all these little names down, because I don't have that, what is that called?
That wheel?
The wheel of names. I don't even know if you guys get that, but it's really cool. So, meanwhile, I'm listening, but I'm just writing down a bunch of names here. So, old school way. I have to throw it in the bucket. But I'm kind of wondering if anybody has any questions, any questions. So I just kind of want to give that opportunity, or there's a lot of people that have been watching, that, here I go saying, again. I keep saying, I'm not going to say that, but I do. It's bad. Yeah. So, let's see. Bear Martel says, thank you again. And yes, when grieving, never know when it will come on. I lost my dad 2 months ago, and prayers and hugs and love to you all. Thank you, Bear, for sharing that. And gee, I don't even know how to get on my comments here. Anywho's, so yeah, I don't know. I'm like, it's crazy when I think back, when you're telling your story about Penny and the timeline, like I can't really believe how sudden that was and how fast, that took place. And I think I shared with you maybe before, but I had texted her the day before, and because I heard that she wasn't feeling well, and I said, hey, you gotta what did I say? I don't know, like, you gotta get better, we need you, or whatever I said. And she said, oh, my lungs are taking a beating. And then afterwards, when COVID like came out, on the news and the media and all that, I was like, that had to have been what that was. It had to have been, because it was just all of a sudden, and she did share with me that she felt like she had the flu, and that was the same kind of symptoms that we all kind of experienced when that first came out. And I just was like, oh, no way. So things were happening before it started coming out on the media.
Before it was on the media, it was there.
And I had such a interesting time with Penny, and I'm just gonna, ask you as her mom, because she's not here to speak for herself, if I can share that, if that's okay, because
of course,
man, she was stubborn.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I learned a lot from her, you know, in the beginning there when she got there. She was so she was mad. She was mad. She
Oh,
didn't want to
yeah.
be there. And, just kind of, I mean, that's just kind of like the typical response. At first,
Yeah.
a lot of people are kind of gun ho and like, yeah, I want to, I really want to work on this. I want to da da da. And then a couple weeks come around and start feeling kind of lonesome, maybe a little kind of agitated. And, then boy, she was stubborn. But I appreciated her so much because she was so um honest. She's really
Yeah.
honest about her feelings, and that's something that I not everybody is able to do.
Yeah.
And that's definitely I like in my mind I'm seeing myself sitting in this room with her because we would meet with people with MHA, all of our MHA members like once a month at Amity. And I'm sitting in this room, and there's a couple of us, and she's sitting across from me, and she just has, this mad face, and I'm like, holy cow, I'm kind of scared of this girl, like, And I had like known her from before, but not like close. But I was just like, oh, this girl, she's gonna beat me up, like she just very intimidating. And then once she started talking, she was good. She was sharing and sharing, and then she would get mad, and then she'd walk up, and then she came back in. So, but it was just like it was
So,
such honest and like raw emotion that we got from her. And then literally, I kid you not, maybe like a month later, the next time we came to visit, she was a totally different person. Like, I don't know what happened, but like something changed in her, and she was so
yeah.
focused on recovery and then helping others,
Yeah.
down the line. And I just was amazed because she became this really amazing leader down there.
Yeah.
And she just provided such a great support system, and she was so caring and loving, and had a lot of empathy for not just our tribal members that came there, but for everybody, like
Yeah.
everybody that was there, and newcomers. That's probably the hardest part. And she was really good about working with the newcomers, because that's tough in the beginning when you're first getting there and you don't know anybody. You're totally out of your element, and everything in your life has changed. Your routine, your food, because they have a different diet there. I really think that was the toughest part. I'm not
It
gonna
was.
lie.
It was.
Yeah. And like I feel like up here, and maybe it's everywhere, but just like in the Midwest, it's like it's meat and potatoes. You gotta have your meat, and it's something that they I believe Amity had a clean eating, and so I think
Yeah.
they had like turkey and chicken maybe, but not a lot of red meat. And that was really hard
It
for,
is.
I kid you not, probably 99% of the people that I worked with that had gone there. And that was like a really big deal. And people wanted to leave. I mean, that's what they
Yeah.
said, but they
Yeah.
wanted to leave because they hated the food. But then, after a while, giving it a chance and just kind of like getting into this new routine and this new flow of things and the new structure, like,
Yeah.
you know,
That's.
it
I'm
really
glad
made a difference.
when you
Yeah.
were talking about the food when I would go down and visit. Let's go, mom. And oh my gosh, you know. Well, I said, well, gee, could we kind of rest and let me sit down? Been on here. I want to get out of here. So and I say, well, gee, I'm tired. Are you ready to go back? I don't want to go back right now. I'm there 24/7.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
They'd be eating cheeseburgers, and oh my gosh, we were thinking, gee, you guys act like you're starving.
Yep. And then I remember like because once people got to a certain point, especially when they had kids, and if they became like an apprentice or even an employee,
Yeah.
you know, they could get their own apartment kind of.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to her because she was like, gotta order snacks or whatever it was for the kids,
Yeah.
using kids. And I'm like, uh, you need to chill out with all these snacks, right? And it's funny because we joked about it. I think actually it was the night before she had gone home for a visit and stuff, and we were talking about it. And I'm like, chill out, girl. But
We
yeah,
I remember the first time I went down there, she was saying, "Oh, mom, they wanted my Indian tacos and they wanted the goulash."
hmm
So then somewhere somebody came up with this idea to go ask Mark that Indian tacos are part of our culture. When he said yeah, so oh my gosh, oh my God, Brooklyn, I made the dough. I put the dough in the pan. I set it outside on the chair. In half an hour, that darn dough was just rising out of the pan because of the heat.
it's so hot. Yeah,
Oh my God. And then go in and fry it. Oh my gosh.
that had to have been a lot of work. I hope you had some helpers. Holy cow.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh, we fed MHA down there for sure. So
Jeez.
going down and visiting them.
Yeah. And then you know, I don't know if anybody ever, you know, had a chance to look at pictures and stuff, but they planted that memorial tree for Penny, right?
Yeah, we had when we went down after she passed away, we got the kids packed up and they wanted to know if that we wanted to do anything. And I thought, well, you know what? Penny had so many friends down here. We need to have a memorial and have closure. So um, they planned the memorial, and then that was so nice when they got the tree and they planted it behind the window where they first stayed when they first got down there. And
hmm
nice. It was really nice for everybody. They needed that closure.
Somebody, Emma posted, I ate one cheeseburger in 6.5 weeks. I believe that. I believe that. Oh,
Oh,
crazy. Yeah, I think that was everybody's kind of binge, like whenever they would go off campus. And I remember the some of our members would say, "Yeah, I got to go on a pass, and we snuck a pop or snuck a whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, I won't tell anyone." You know,
yeah.
it's those little things like that, you know, that you don't even
Yeah.
realize that you would miss.
Oh, and I that very first night I went down, we were in her room, and it was like about 5 in the morning, and I heard this lady knocking on the door, and she was saying, "Penny, time to get up, time to make them donuts." And I thought, duty, I bet she's got to make donuts. So I got up and I said, "Penny, wake up." I said, "You got to make donuts. I'll help you." They just say that to wake you up, but I really,
That's really cute though. Ah, I'll help you. Just cute. That's a good one. That was a good. I didn't even know that. That's funny. Gee, you know, to
that,
teach some people and see if they get it. Just kidding.
what was that lady? Oh man, people were, they were, oh God, Penny was one too. Mom, she's really mean.
Oh,
What was her name?
I don't know. I don't know anybody that was because
Penny,
everybody was nice to me.
they, she was like really,
Uh,
you could just see it on her. Oh, I can't remember her name. Oh my gosh. But that was the one telling her she had to make donuts. I got down a
oh
few times.
my gosh. Well, I'm glad you got to experience, things like that with her and those good times and,
Was, yeah.
and she got to share her love and her laughter and all that with, so many people. And you know what I also really appreciate is I love all the pictures that you post and, being able to watch. It's kind of weird because it's like knowing her children, and getting to meet them and then also knowing that they're, my actually mine and my son's relatives is just like you get to watch them grow up and like you're looking over them kind of from afar, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
And if ever, honestly, and I'm just that kind of person, I think too, is just, if ever, there was a time when, you know, these kids needed anything, I'd be like, I would jump to it, and I love being able to watch them grow up. And
Oh,
so,
that,
and I'm sure that there's a lot of other people that feel the same way, you know.
yes, there
It's
are.
just, it's like they're beautiful children and gosh, they just remind me of their mom so much. And I don't know. I just,
Yeah.
I really appreciate it a lot.
Um, we get a lot of people from Amity that reach out, check on them. The two who made the song for her,
Oh,
the
yeah.
they
I don't remember their names. Sorry.
Miller and they text and ask how they're doing. Um, they're the two who did the songs. David checks on them a lot.
That's good.
So, um, a couple of the counselors down there will check and see how they're doing, asking about them.
Yeah. I know
Yeah.
David spent a lot of time with the kids. I
Oh,
know he was kind of like a cameraman all the time too. I always saw
yeah,
pictures
yeah,
and videos of him, and that's great though because he captured so
oh yeah,
so many people's experience and all these fun times that people had together, especially with the kids, you
yeah.
know. So I appreciate that a lot. Does anybody have any questions moving forward for Kim or for myself or even just, I don't know, anything before we kind of wrap it up and call it an evening? And Kim's will be lost. So I just want to give somebody or anybody an opportunity. I have to double check because I don't want to leave anybody out. Let's see. Is there anything else that Kim, that do you have any questions for myself or for anybody out there really? If I don't know. Hey, words of wisdom. Give us some more words of wisdom.
Oh, oh, from experience. Oh my goodness, yes. Um, this during White Show Powwow this year, we have because of COVID and not being able to have our powwow last year, we are going to do a memorial for Penny and my sister Ardeen
Okay.
at White Show Powwow. Um, I think that just I guess my for me what was so reassuring in all my loss is just know you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be okay. And the way you feel, just go with it and allow yourself to cry and allow yourself to scream and holler and hit the wall or hit your pillows or because it's not fair. It's not fair, but that's how life is. And we have to work through it. We have to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
And um one of what really brings around is a way of thinking for me is I think how like our culture, we don't know how to grieve. We're expected to go back to work or you're expected to keep moving and get on with your lives. And yes, I get that in our culture years ago, that's how we were taught. That's how our parents were taught. But now we're in the 20th, what, the 21st, 20th century, and times have changed, you know. And I don't care. Like I said, I grieve and do what works for me. And this may be going against my culture, but I'm going to think about my loved ones. I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to look at their pictures, and I'm going to keep some of their belongings. You know, if that's going to make me feel better, then I'm going to do it. You know, because I'm the one who, you know, that's me. I'm the one who needs to deal with this grief, and I'm going to do how I see fit, what works for me.
Right. And I think that's really important. Like, that's a super important message to keep in mind, because so I heard somebody say, and I thought this was really inspiring, and it just really important, because they talked about how you know, if tradition is I'm gonna like chop this up bad, but it's like, and I should know this, but I sorry. But if tradition is like hurting you more than healing, then something needs to change, or it needs to be modified. And I don't personally, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, because I think if we want to keep our traditions and our culture alive, we kind of have to, like, in a good way, in the best way, to evolve with time. And how, you know, how can we implement these things into our life nowadays, because so much has changed over the last 50, 25, 100 years, 200 years, you know. Like, a lot has changed, and the way we communicate, the way we do things in our daily lives, like, it's changed from, you know, even 25, 50 years ago. And so I appreciate that, you know, what that person had shared. And I think that that's a good thing, you know, to keep in mind, because I'm not gonna lie, you know, I still have my dad's belongings, and when I think about it, you know, and when, you know, when it was fresh, when he had passed away, I was like, oh, we got to do all these things, we got to do this, we got to do that. And, you know, and my dad wasn't Native, but he grew up his whole entire life on Standing Rock, you know, in the community. And my mom is Native, but my dad was not. And so, but my dad was so accepting and so supportive of our culture and our traditions and just everything. And that's something that, you know, thankfully we were able to even have one of my brothers, one of my cousin brothers, was able to give him a traditional going away ceremony. And it was really special, you know. It was special to us as a family, because, you know, his children, you know, are all Native. And so it just meant a lot. But then at the same time, I had all this pressure on myself, and, you know, I'm probably the only one thinking like this, but I'm just like, oh, we got to do this, got to do that. We got to burn his clothes. We got to do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you know, as much as I want to continue, like, and teach, like, that way of life, like our kind of old way, it's hard, because we live in a different time. And I feel like if I were to have rushed into doing those things, I would have created more of a detriment to myself than a healing.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's coming up on that 2-year mark, and I'm still
Yeah.
not ready, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. I'm okay with
Yeah.
that. So I don't, you know, people out there too, I don't want people, you know, other people to think that you don't have to rush. Um, even though, you know, traditionally, it might be something that you're getting a lot of pressure, you know,
Yeah.
especially if you're younger in the family, right? And you have aunties and uncles and grandmas and grandpas are, you know, and they're saying, nope, you got to do this. You have to do it
Yeah.
this way. And getting pressure like that, I mean, I, I don't want to tell you anybody what to do, but
Yeah.
that's just kind of, so I
That's
feel you on that a lot.
good for you. Yeah.
And I think, you know, oh, I was talking to Penny, and it was it was like that summer, I think, or I don't even remember, but she was telling me how she they that the family was finally gonna go to LaBelle's house, and
Mhm.
we're
Yeah.
gonna clean.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And she's like, everything is just the same, like everything, we didn't touch nothing really. And I'm like, wow, like I felt um I don't know, appreciative of that, because I was like, wow, you know, the family really took their time and not didn't rush themselves to, even though I know, like, even in, you know, how our tribes are all, I mean, we're kind of banded together, but we're not this all the same. Like
Yeah.
even our traditions are different between the
They
3 tribes. So um but yeah, I was just like, wow, that's great. Like that's really great
took
that,
a while. Did it. We finally got to it.
and that's okay, you
Yeah.
know. Again,
Yeah. It is. It's
doing
okay.
it in our time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but yeah, so I, in that way, I can relate as far as grieving. And it's hard. It doesn't, I mean, I think it doesn't matter, like, if it was, I mean, grieving in general, like if you're grieving a friend or a loved one, or, you know, you it hurts. It hurts
Yeah.
no matter what. And I've heard so many times that people say, you know, when they're in their addiction or when they're using or drinking, and they're saying, well, I didn't want to feel those emotions. I didn't want to feel all of that. But it's kind of like, regardless, you know, if or when you decide to work towards sobriety or in recovery, you're gonna have to feel those things. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't go away.
And I can attest to that. White Out Woman and I talk about like this a lot. We talk about how, you know, when you miss them so bad, you just hurt so bad, you know, your heart is hurting, your spirit is hurting,
Mm-hmm.
and you just get to that point where, that point right there, when you get to that point is where you decide, I'm going to numb this with a drink, I'm going to numb this with a drug, or I got to go smudge, I got to go pray, I got to go talk to somebody, I got to go hug somebody, you know, I need a hug, or cry, just cry, you
Yeah.
know. At that point, what you're saying, that point is where you decide, how am I going to handle this, how am I going to grieve? I can handle it in a good way, or I can handle it in a not good way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a eye awakening experience for me when I told Penn, I said, or told White Alchemist, I said, this is where this is where your brother chose to do the drugs or go out and get that DUI when your brother passed away the very night. You know, I don't know. Again, I just think I have to do what works for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just all deal with it differently.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, drugs and alcohol is not the way to deal with it. That's all I can say. You can numb it, but it's going to be there. This other way, you're dealing with it. It's there. You deal with it. Do what works for you, and it'll come again, and then you do it
Yeah.
again. what to do, how to deal with it.
And I feel like I've worked with so many people, and I've known so many people, not even just, you know, in the field, just even personally, you know, where people will go into a recovery program and, you know, they'll make it through, or they'll make it to a point and maybe hit some triggers, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then they want to leave, and they
Yep.
walk, and they get, you know, and then, but it's in that moment, it's like somebody else pissed them off. Somebody else, this is your fault, this is your fault, da-da. And that's just, you know, part of like, in my opinion, or in my observation, like a projection, you know,
Yep.
and they might not even know. Gee, my hair's sticking out there.
Yeah.
They might not even know. Sorry, that's bothering me.
All acting.
Here's a squirrel. Just kidding. They might not even know like what it is, what
Yeah.
that trigger is. And personally, like I can attest to that. I've worked on things, you know, in my own way too, that things have just been a trigger, and you're like, where did that even come from? I don't even
Yeah.
know, like, why did I get mad about that, you know, or ew, why does that gross me out, or, you know, whatever. And
Yeah.
you don't know, because it may be something that you have just kind of buried and buried and buried, and then it's just kind of like one of those, like a PTSD effect or something,
Yeah.
you know, a trigger. And then they walk off, and then they
Yeah.
leave, you know, and then they, you know, someone goes and you know, they get high, or they start drinking, or, you know, and then it's like, um same thing, you know, if somebody finishes the program, I've seen this a lot too, finishes their program, they go to sober living, or they go home, or they, you know, make a new, you know, a new life kind of, and then relapse happens, you know, and then you have that honest conversation with them, like, hey, what happened, you know, what happened? And it's like, man, you know, so and so's memorial came up, and I couldn't handle it, you know, I lost it. And I'm like, is this something that you worked on with
Yeah.
your counselor, or like in your groups? And probably, and this is just my experience working with people, it's like, or in my relationships with people, it's like probably at least 75% of the time, if not more, you know, people were like, I didn't talk about that. I
Yeah.
didn't talk about that because I didn't want to bring it up, you know. And it's like, if that's something that is causing you to be triggered, or have that, you know, that stress, then it's probably something you need to talk about,
Yeah.
you know, instead of burying it.
It's
Because it,
funny you say that, because I have a grandson right now he OD'd twice, tried to quit, and all, you know, go for a while and then relapse.
mm-hmm,
So was doing really good, and then, gee, he was almost clean about almost a year, and then he fell off. He relapsed. So in those times before when he OD'd, he was thinking he could do this on his own, cold turkey, don't have to talk to nobody, no treatment, go through the process of eval. But this last time when he relapsed, now he's seeing that he needs a support system.
mm-hmm.
And it feels so good now, because I can see he's truthful about his recovery, because he's reaching out to people to talk to now.
Yep.
So I said, now see, when before you thought you could do it on your own, but now there's people that you can, and who knows, you know, light bulbs come on and you think, wow, I need help. Maybe I can talk to people. And now he's at that point.
That's good.
And then the other thing that I wanted to mention was, um, I have a granddaughter who does methadone. she doses. And I don't know if I'm wrong in thinking this, or okay, so like, you know, you have people who are in recovery who don't need to use methadone or Suboxone, or okay, you have that group, and then you have those who do it. But does this group who doesn't, do they still work with the ones who are on methadone? You know, is there feelings, or kind of like long time ago and abuse for alcoholics,
Mhm.
you know? Because for me, now this is my thinking, and again, my own thinking, because of all of my loss that I've gone through. My granddaughter takes methadone, and I have my mixed feelings. You know, people say it's a legal high, but to me, she says, Grandma, when I use methadone, when I dose, she says, I don't even think about using. I don't, I don't even think about it. It's not there. But when she doesn't dose, she relapses. But in my mind, I'm thinking, no matter what my feelings are on it, I'm glad you're using it, because you could not be here. You know what I mean? Because and it could be selfish thinking on my part, but I'm so lost so many people. I don't want to lose any more.
Right. And I think, well, we did touch on that last week a lot.
Yeah,
And yeah, and so, again, actually, that's a good question to write down. Because I would like to have, Heather Momberg was on last week, and I would like to invite her again with her team to talk a little bit more about their MAP program. But personally, you know, I think that, personally, I really think that there are people out there that need that, you know, and that they, you know, and there, I mean, there's individuals out there, and again, this is just um, what I've observed, I think, in my practice. And so there are people out there that will take advantage, but there are people out there that really, truly need it. And if they don't, then they're at more risk of
yeah,
total, you know, total
yeah.
relapse. And I know that's a lot of mixed feelings on that. Again, you know, I know that there's some places, oh, that won't accept people if
Yeah.
they're on like psych meds.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, I think like there's some sober livings or, you know, other facilities that won't accept people on psych meds. And it's like, oh, you know, if people only really understood that some of these people have to be on psych meds. They need to be on psych meds because it helps them regulate, you know, and feel
Yeah.
normal, you know, feel what their normal is, and in a healthy way. And I get it though, because there's a lot of things out there that are abusable, so you have to be really careful. But you know, there are people out there that really need to be on psych meds to help them to stay sober. So again, I know there's a lot of mixed feelings and opinions on that. I did see a question really, really quick because I don't want to forget. Where did it go? Tommy asks, working in prevention with little ones here in the schools of Bismarck, are there any areas you can specifically think of that would be helpful for our families who are going through the addiction struggle journey? Oh, well, I don't know, Kim, do you have any suggestions? I mean, I could.
You know what? I always think, and like how we're talking about talking, you know, even even if you could start a support group to talk, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I know how I was. I've always been an open book about my kids' addiction, and I have no problem with that. You know, I'm not ashamed of what my kids are going through. I always told my kids that there's nothing you can ever do that would make me stop loving you. I will always support you. And having an addiction, I mean, my son was in jail, in prison. Um, Penny ended up, she said, losing her mind for 5 days, and she's lucky she came back to us.
Mm-hmm.
And, but just, you know, not to hide it, to be, you know, and be truthful with yourself, most importantly, but just to let your kids know that, you know, it don't matter what you do, you'll love them and support them and be there for them. But as far as like families in the Bismarck area, if you're natives, you know, we love to eat, and just get a group together. Like, come, like today we had a meeting. We're planning our breakfast for my dad's flag raising on Sunday, and just meet and talk. You know, it don't have to be like a set up group or something. Just like you used to go visit long time ago, just go and visit and talk.
Mm-hmm. I sure said to somebody, sorry, it made me think of something. I sure said to one of my relatives and one of my friends, I said, you know, I want to be that. I really want to be that lady or that grandma or that auntie or, you know, that relative, right? That people come over and just want to sit and have coffee and talk. I
Yeah.
really want to be that woman, you know? And so I'm putting that out there, everybody, just so you know. I've shared that with a couple relatives already. And so I'm like, I just, you know, because I remember, you know, like with my dad, right? You know, out in the country on the ranch, and people would just come out. They'd come out and sit and visit, and I probably heard conversations, you know, between, you know, my dad and his friends. I probably should have been outside or something, but you know, but that's how people. I think, in my opinion, that's how people heal. Yes, talking about it, you know, and sitting down and having that relationship, or just even if it's not even something major, you know, just sitting and talking about it, you know. But um, I know that that's something that my dad used to just love, when people come out and he, you know, Brooklyn, make some coffee or whatever, you know, and just sit
Yeah,
down and just, you know,
I hear you.
and
Yeah.
like it's just like your his eyes would light up, and you know, and
Oh,
so it's just, you know, I think that's really special. Yes, I think that's good to just even sit down and talk with people. And I know, like, professionally, um, ethically, you know, we have to do things in a certain way just
yeah,
to continue to be ethical.
yeah,
But I don't see anything wrong with sitting down and having a cup of coffee with somebody, because if that's something that's going to help, then
yeah. And you're
that's it,
helping each too,
right?
you know, doing that.
Yeah. And
One
there's a
more.
lot of support groups.
Oh, you're freezing.
Oh,
I
you know
said
why?
you're
Am I back?
freezing.
Am I back now?
Yeah, you're back
Okay.
now.
You know why? Because my phone said low battery.
Oh, really?
I had it
Oh,
charged and everything. Must be just sucking all the energy out. Just kidding. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish your what you had to say, because I
okay.
don't my
I
battery would die.
wanted to touch on, and maybe something for you to think about, Brooklyn, in your area
Hmm.
in recovery is, I have a grandson who took a bad drug, and he was 17 and he's 22 now. So diagnosed with drug-induced psychosis and schizophrenia.
Right.
Oh, we're to the point where we need to, I feel he needs a guardian, but I feel how we are working on all of these recovery places and these sober lodge or sober livings. we need a place for those who are diagnosed with drug-induced psychosis.
Right.
Because he needs to be in a place where he's reminded to take his medication, because he can't do it on his own, make decisions on his own. It's to that point now.
Yeah.
But just something, because like we don't know what we're gonna do.
Right.
You know, community alone, there are 4 of them. So that tells you there's a need for it when you're in a small community like White Shield and there's 4 of them.
Right. Yes. So that's something really important that I've actually had thought about in my previous role with MHA, and just in general, and even, you know, like I said, I work with Standing Rock now, but in general, there's a huge need for that. And I don't have all the answers. I don't know all of the resources yet, you know, especially
out there, different people to start planting that seed,
yes.
and find that there is a need for this.
Right. And that's something, you know, I would really like to have that as another discussion point at some point in time, and see if I can get somebody who specializes in that area to talk more about it, because I think it's really important, especially for like a lot of our elders in our communities, when, you know, they're raising grandchildren, or, you know, they have other family members living with them, and maybe some of those family members are using, and things are happening like that, and they don't know what's going on, and they're scared.
Yeah.
You know, we need to be able to get out there and educate our communities more about what drug-induced psychosis is, what it looks like, you know, what is the cause, and how it could, you know, potentially be treated. That's something that we really need to do, and I think it's really important that we do it sooner than later, you know, because a lot of our elders are, I've heard so many statements from people saying that they're afraid because they don't know what's going on. They don't know why so and so is like this. They were never like this before, and then just all of a sudden, you know, and it's like, you know, it can it's real.
It's almost like a death, because he's never the same. You know, he's never gonna be who he was before that.
Yeah. It's a major change.
It is.
The individual and for their loved ones, so, and their communities. So
I thought I would throw out there, and I've been doing a lot of throwing lately, hoping someone will, maybe we should hop on this and get.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I'm down for anything. I'm like, so I feel really good about where things are at, just for me in particular. And I have a lot more ability to do the things that I wanted to do in the communities. So, you know, if anybody wants to, you know, group up and work on some things, whether it be, you know, for Bertho, whether it be Standing Rock, you know, Bismarck Mandan, or any other, you know, communities anywhere else, any other reservations, I mean, let me know. I know that you were very supportive, Kim. And that was a really good question and point to bring out, Tommy. So I really thank you for, that's kind of how we got started on this conversation. So, thank you. But yeah, you know, you can always message myself or Kim, or, but yeah, I'm definitely on board for something like that. So I think what we'll do, just so that way I can make sure I get everybody's names after we end this session, then I will, I'll visit with Kim here, and then we will do her Wopila gift and our little drawing, because I still have some of these little papers to fill out. So there's a bunch, yeah. So not sure if you want to share what you're gonna gift.
Here's what for those of you who listen to me, it's a ribbon skirt I make them and then I put them away.
Save them for any day.
Yeah, for a rainy day. And then,
Hey, it's kind of sprinkling out, so
yeah,
today's rainy
here
day.
and this bag.
Oh, I love it. It's beautiful.
This thank you for listening to me, and I hope you feel encouraged because you're okay. It's going to be okay.
Yes. And if at any point in time, you know, during this video or any other video or just anytime in general, if you're feeling not so okay, you know, it's okay to reach out to myself. I know Kim is more than willing to always, you know, lend an ear and listen. And there's so many others out there that are here to support, you know, we're all here
Yep.
to support each other. So I actually will be posting up some things on our tribal opioid response page as far as some more resources. And yeah, you'll be able to see those here shortly. And then, yeah, we'll post up. I'll get with Kim after this. I gotta charge my battery. So, all right, just hang tight, everybody, and we will see you next week again. And here, you know what? Again, every time, I'm always trying to say I'm gonna open with prayer. I'm open with prayer, and then I forget because I just start rambling on, right? So, I'm gonna ask Kim to please do prayer today because she's my special guest. So, okay.
Okay, Angela, I thank you for giving me this time to share my story with those who are going through the same loss and recovering and that I have. Conchal, I ask that you watch over all of those who are going through loss and grief and addictions. And I ask you watch over those who are in the hospitals and battling illnesses and diseases. And also I ask for special prayers to Conchal for the man in the middle and all our sun dancers who will be coming up dancing here this summer. And special prayers to all the people, to Conchal, who are on here and listening tonight. And I hope we all, some way, somehow, help each other out. To Conchal, Doc, yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kim. And again, join us next week. And from my lodge to your lodge, just want to say thank you and good night. We'll see you next time.
Yes.
See you.